My name is Jerm. This is Jerm Warfare, the battle of ideas. Alex Michael, otherwise known as Conspiracy Music Guru. This is the first time you've been on my show. And as I said to you before I hit the record button, I've had so many requests over the years to have you on. I am so sorry it's taken this long.
No worries. I'm quite flattered that you've had so many requests. So that's good. So I must be doing something right, I guess.
Exactly. And I am a musician, but I say that very loosely because I don't really know what I'm doing most of the time. I just basically I just basically play some punk rock power chords and inverted power chords, and that's that. I've got two guitars, and I see behind you, you've got a whole pile of instruments.
I've got about 15 guitars, all tuned to 432. We'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm building up some percussion, and I'm sort of outgrowing my studio now. I desperately need a bigger space because I want to have a stage. I want to have some lighting. I want to do professional record. And this space is I'm just growing out of it. So I'm even talking about selling up and moving house, which is daunting. But like I say, I'm bursting at the seams here, especially when you get sort of 5 or 6 people in it. You just like, we're all crammed in this little space. I'm just like, we need a bigger boat, man.
15 guitars. What's your favorite?
That's tough because they all do different things, different sounds, So if I wanted to play if I wanted to make a blues album, I'm going straight for my Fender Stratocaster or a Telecaster, or I've got a couple of Fenders.
Nice.
Yeah. Or, if I want a rock sound, I've got a couple of custom-made guitars here. Actually, I'll show you this one. This was made for me by a fan in the UK, and he actually put flat earth into the fretboard. It's probably reversed, actually. There.
So that looks like that looks like an SG that's been customized.
Yeah, well, he got me to pick the body and what kind of hardware I wanted, and I wanted the azimuthal equidistant map on there as well. So he's carved that in, and incredible bit of craftsmanship. So that's what a compliment that is for I moved a guy so much in the States, a guitar maker, a luthier, that he contacted me and said, I want to make you a guitar free of charge, and this is worth like grands, So that's how that's how music could be so powerful.
How does it sound?
That sounds really rocky. I mean, it's really, really chunky. So if you want a real hard rock sound, or you want to do anything heavy metal, that's the guitar I would go to. Also got an Ibanez, which is great for rock. I'm a big Steve Vai fan. That guy is just I think he's an alien. I don't know how his fingers work so fast, man. And I've got a bunch of acoustics. I've got some classical guitars here for that classic Spanish sound, and sometimes I do a bit of that in some of my solfeggio stuff. So I've got all the sort of ingredients I need in front of me. I've got a big MIDI piano in front of me, so I can do all string compositions. If I wanted a sitar, I could turn that into a sitar or a trumpet or a trombone or whatever. So I can do a lot of things digitally as well, and add my voice to all of that, and the harmonies and the production and everything else. And I can create. I've got enough. I'm no guitar maestro. I'm a jack of all trades, if you like, but master of none. So I play a little bit of piano, play a little bit of drums, play a little bit of bass, a little bit. I've got enough ingredients to put into like a song. I know some things. I need to put this in a song and tell people about this particular subject, and I'll make a song about that.
Well, I've got a grand total of 2 guitars and a ukulele.
That's a good start. Well, I started with one, you got to start somewhere. Ukuleles are nice. They're quite pleasant to listen to.
And I've also got the smallest of the range.
All right. One day you'll get a real guitar. One day you'll get a real guitar.
Wait, I've got a Fender Strat with a Seymour Duncan humbucker on it. So
Nice.
I love playing against the bridge. Then I've got a Taylor.
You like that harsher
acoustic
sound then, by the sounds of it, the harsher rocky sound, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, punk rock is my thing. Grew up with that. Johnny Rotten.
Oh yeah.
The Clash.
Yes.
But I got a beautiful Taylor GS Mini, so it's slightly smaller, which is really, really nice for taking away on weekends. It's got a mahogany wood, so it's still got a very deep sound. But those are my 2 guitars, and I really enjoy them. I can't afford more. I wish I could.
So do I, man. But I just bought another Fender. It's a Fender copy, and this company's called Sire, Larry Carlton Sire, and this is better than any Fender I've played. Fender are really going downhill at the moment. I don't know if you're aware of the Fender lawsuit at the moment. Fender are taking a bunch of guitar makers to court because they're copying the Fender body, which is like that kind of shape. But this was €300, 350 euros. This plays better than a $2,000 Fender Stratocaster. It's incredible.
Really?
And that's Sire, Larry Carlton. And this is probably my favourite guitar. And cheap, like so affordable at €400. 350, I think it was. It's insane what you can get, the quality you can get now. So, you know, I try not to use that, I can't afford more guitars. Well, really, you can if they're just a couple of $100.
Yeah, that's actually
they
good.
play as good as you know.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I heard about that Fender story. I mean, that's going to send them spiraling downwards.
Yeah, it's not a good look. It's really not a good look. Why don't they just make better guitars? You know, people are going for either Strat copies or, you know, Strat sort of style guitars because they're better. You know, the craftsmanship's on a PRS with a Strat kind of body. The craftsmanship on that is way, way better than any Fender Stratocaster that's coming out now. So they need to pull their socks up, and they've just pissed a lot of people off. So it's really not a good look. So it'd be interesting to see how that ends up.
Alex, take me through your background for those who are listening to you for the first time.
Oof. Well, I come from a quote-unquote musical family. My father was an organist in a band with his brothers in the 1970s. I was born in 1972. And I always remember a piano being around or an organ. My dad used to play the Hammond organ. So there was always a piano or an organ in the house. So I started...
Wait, did you say Hammond? That's like the ultimate rock organ.
Oh, it's awesome, especially when you got the Leslie speakers where they've got that internal. They go whoa, 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 and it's incredible. I can emulate that sound on my MIDI keyboard here. So I'm a big fan of the Hammond organ. I use it a lot in a lot of my tracks. It really fills a certain area of the space where you just like, if you want some warmth, get that Hammond organ in there. It just, particularly if you're going into a chorus and you get that, it's great. So he had one of them, he had the organ, he had the big Leslie speakers, and you click a little button, the speakers start spinning inside. So I played around with the organ for quite a while. And then I got myself a little keyboard. I think I did my first gig when I was 8 years old. I was playing Christmas songs in an old people's home. And bless them, they went round with the glass and they kind of collected a few, some tips for me. You know, when you go around with the hat and they all put some money in, it's like, and I got fucking like £9 or something like that. I was like, oh, wow. As an 8-year-old boy, that was quite amazing, really. I thought, maybe I could make some money out of music. And I think that's when I first realised that, you know, I could actually make money from making music, regardless of, you know, what it was. If it was Christmas songs or even ringtones, I started making ringtones as well. But anyway, cut a long story short, when I got to about 21, I picked up the guitar. And because I already knew chord progressions and melody and that kind of thing, picking up the guitar was pretty easy. I advanced fairly quickly on that. And when you could play the guitar, you could play the bass. I started playing the bass, and then I started learning about music production and started putting, you know, all of my ideas into the computer. I did 1,000 gigs as well, you know. I was a karaoke compere, I was a DJ, I was an acoustic guitarist, I was a singer. So if anybody wanted any entertainment, they would call me. So I was always busy doing one of those things. And so when I got into music production, I sort of moved away from doing all those gigs and started making music in my little man cave and just, you know, putting all my thoughts and ideas into music that way. Once you realise that a computer can record all of these instruments, it was that blew me away. And in 2012, I started getting into alternative narratives, and then that really gave me food for thought and gave me this huge creative burst, really. I was like, oh, now I know that 9/11 is a lie. I need to put that into music, you know. And so you don't make love songs anymore at that point when you've been, you know, exposed to these kinds of ideas and information. You're like, oh, no more tepid love songs. I've got to sing a song about 9/11 or fluoride or vaccines or chemtrails, which I've done now. So that seems to be my purpose, just putting all this stuff into music so other people can think critically about the world they live in.
I've had maybe 2 Damascus moments. It's like that's what I like to call them. You know, 2 sort of black swan revelations over the years. One was around 2009, and that was for the first time when I started questioning a mainstream narrative, and that was the climate change thing. And then a number of years passed until around 2018, 2019, when I started thinking about 9/11 and related topics. Would you say you had any Damascus moments, or was it more like a gradual evolution of critical thinking?
I mean, initially that was the sort of the catalyst that got me into. Yeah, well, the 9/11 was the mind blower for me. Going, oh my God, how did they pull that off? So lies on that scale are possible. It just blew my mind up. Wow, they actually pulled it off. It was a huge, you know, psychological operation. And then that was when I kind of had that realization. Well, this world isn't screwed up, because I'd always had that splinter in my mind driving me mad, as Morpheus says in The Matrix. Like, you feel it when you go to work, when you pay your taxes, and I felt there was something wrong with the world. And then when I got into the 9/11 information, I realised that the world isn't screwed up; it's working exactly how they want it to work. This is how it's designed. So that was the big boom, and that blew my mind open, and it just opened so many other doors. It showed me more doors to walk into, and of course, back in the day, back in 2012, 2013, up to about 2018, 19, YouTube would just feed you this stuff. You looked at this 9/11 conspiracy video. How about another one? How about another one? How about another one? And of course, you're seeing all of this new terminology like New World Order and Illuminati. These were all new concepts for me, and I was just drinking it in for many, many years. And then, of course, the censorship hit, and it's impossible to find any good information now on YouTube. So after I think 9/11 blew the doors off of my mind. And then it just opened me up to all of these other things. And then here I am in 2026 with about 7 albums under my belt, because it just gives you this huge creative burst. So it is like an apprenticeship. I guess everything I learn, I go, wow, that needs to have a song. Or during COVID, I was very, very angry and just so frustrated with the acquiescence. And I wrote a bunch of rock songs. I got in the studio and shouted into a microphone. It's my therapy. And a rock album popped out. So it's just my evolution of just learning stuff and putting this information into music. That's kind of what I do.
I hope this works. I'm going to see if I can just quickly play one of your songs, or at least a piece of it.
You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
Well, a funny thing happened on the way to the moon. That's the title of a video that I watched on YouTube. You can see astronauts hanging from wires, proving that astronauts and NASA are liars. They analyze photos and highlight mistakes with the moon landing missions. They show it was faked. You can see them faking the photos of Earth. They use a round window to fake the curve. That's suspicious, don't you think? Yeah, listen up. I watched another documentary called Astronauts Gone Wild. Astronaut Buzz Aldrin gets a little riled. All he was asked to do was to swear to God that he went to the moon, but he would not. He was faced with a moon landing denier. Had a chance to show that he ain't no liar, but Buzz decided to punch that dude just for asking him to swear if he went to the moon. That's suspicious. So, do you still believe we went to the moon? Do you still believe what they're telling you? Just connect the dots and pretty soon you'll find out what I found out too. But if you question this stuff, you'll be labeled a loon. You'll be called a conspiracy theory buffoon, but I don't care, man. I'm still gonna make this too, cause I know that we didn't go to the moon.
What if you swore in the Bible that you walked on the moon? You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't.
And how about those moon rocks they gave to museums? And thousands of people did see them. But one museum took a closer look. They soon realized that something's afoot. The rock they were given turned out to be a fake. Just a piece of old wood, not a rock from space. Yeah, when God made the moon, he saw it was good, but apparently made it from petrified wood. Yeah, that's suspicious. Listen up. In another museum sits an astronaut suit. Take a good look at the tread on the boot. It doesn't match up with the prints on the moon. And y'all still believe what they're telling you? Or how about that phone call that Nixon made to the moon that's 250,000 miles away? When I can't get a signal on my cell phone line, I guess phones were better in '69. Well, do you still believe we went to the moon? Do you still believe what they're telling you? Just connect the dots and pretty soon you'll find out what I found out too. But if you question this stuff, you'll be labeled a loon. You'll be called a conspiracy theory buffoon, but I don't care, man. I'm still gonna make this tune, cause I know that we didn't go to the moon.
And it certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made in the White House.
Yeah, you went straight through those Van Allen belts. It wasn't a problem, right? Nothing was felt. But now you say it's a problem and you can't get through. This problem needs to be solved, according to you. But didn't you solve that problem back in '69 and you flew straight through them 5 more times? You wonder why I think it's fake when there are so many Apollo mistakes, like the telemetry data that's all gone missing. 13,000 reels, are you kidding? A giant leap for all mankind, but you lost the data and no one can find. Come on, man, are you kidding? Do you still believe we went to the moon? Do you still believe what they're telling you? Just connect the dots and pretty soon you'll find out what I found out too. But if you question this stuff, you'll be labeled a loon. You'll be called a conspiracy theory buffoon, but I don't care, man. I'm still gonna make this tune, cause I know that you can't go. No, there's no blast crater from the lunar module. Probably because that thing is just a model. Or the flag that flutters with no atmosphere. Don't you think that's a bit queer? Intersecting shadows means another light source. Do I think it's fake? Yeah, of course. The whole thing was filmed on a Hollywood set. Directed by Kubrick is my best bet. The moon's so cool, we'd love to explore it, but we can't get past low Earth orbit. Do your research, people, I think you'll find. But NASA admits that a bunch of times. Listen.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to. And we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
I love your reference to, what's his name now? Bart Sibrel. Yeah. Sorry, I went completely blank there for a second. So he's been on my show a few times. He's done some great work. And he was the one that Buzz punched.
Yes. Yeah. Just for asking him to swear that he went to moon. He said, put your hand on the Bible, swear that if you actually went, swear that you went. And he wouldn't touch it. And he interviewed a lot of astronauts who were just, they wouldn't put their hand on that thing. I mean, I'm not being, if that was me and I went to the moon and they said, swear on this book, you went to the moon. Yeah, no worries. I'll put my hand on it. Not a problem at all. So that's a bit curious.
Buzz has never really answered any of those questions with a straightforward answer. I remember when he was on some late night show, was it with Conan O'Brien or Jimmy Fallon? I don't know. And the host was saying, we watched you walk on the moon. He said, no. No,
you didn't.
No, you didn't.
You saw an animation.
Yes.
Yeah. he can't lie straight in bed. That I mean, he's probably obviously he carries a lot of trauma. I mean, imagine carrying that with you and having to be wheeled out and do all of these speaking events, knowing full well that every word that comes out of your mouth is a lie. And he tries to sort of navigate around and say something a little bit more subjective, and it's just like, just answer the question, man. So it's quite painful to watch now, and that Apollo thing just hasn't aged very well. And then you fast forward to Artemis, what we were treated with the whole Artemis thing. That was a whole gift. Even the space lovers were going, that's a bit underwhelming. Where's the video footage? Where's in this age of technology, we should be having 20 different angles, but. Again, we just get this parabolic curve, switch to animation, then it's over to your imagination, as I put in one of my songs.
Well, I mean, Alex, come on. Why would you doubt great astronauts like Katy Perry?
Oh, don't even get me started on that. That was a whole farce as well, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, I think I've put all of these ideas into music at this point. You know, if you're still believing NASA and all of this space stuff, to me, it's like a massive cult. It's like Scientology on steroids. It's just this utter Narnia nonsense that we get given, and people still lap it up. But like I say, Artemis was a real gift. A lot of people are now questioning what they're being told from these agencies. So I see an awakening when it comes to quote unquote space travel. It's not happening as fast as I would like it to, but, you know, because we were banging on about this 10, 12 years ago that, you know, they're faking everything. But now I think people are opening their eyes a little bit. They're starting to see, which is nice.
Now, the segue here is the Hertz thing. Now, this is a topic that I don't think just about anybody knows much about.
Yeah, well, once I opened my mind to the 9/11 and everything else on the fluoride and the chemtrails, it became quite apparent to me that we're under this multi-pronged attack. You know, it's not like they're spraying vitamins from the sky, are they? You know, they're not putting fluoride in the water for your teeth, you know, and the information that, we get is all poison. The food is poison, you know, the education system, big pharma, all poison. But I just see that we're under this attack. And then I sort of thought, oh, music. What have they done to music? And I started coming across all the 432 stuff and the 440 and how 440 has been slowly spread as this tuning standard and the people behind it that instigated or implemented this tuning standard. And it's very, very shady. So I started, doing a little bit of digging as to, who was behind the 440 and what did we use to, what should we be tuning to, learning all about solfeggio healing frequencies and putting those frequencies into music and seeing if it has a healing effect. And lo and behold, all these people started messaging me when they bought the album and they had these ailments and they just disappeared. So I'm like, wow, music could really be a real part of our well-being. But of course, it's been tuned up, to make it a little bit more aggressive. And, this is why everybody's so agitated and sick. Cymatics is a good, example when you look at what's going on cymatically with 432 versus 440. So there's so much information there that I put it into a presentation, which is on my channel. So it's a very big subject, but I think they've absolutely bastardized music from a tuning perspective, from a lyrical perspective. They've compressed it as well. So when you compress something that I make in my studio, it actually removes about 85% of the audio information, loses the warmth, loses the clarity. So people listening to music, 440 hertz music on Spotify or whatever streaming platform, they're listening to it in 440, which I do believe is probably not doing you any good. And it's an MP3 as well. So they've removed 85% of the, the overtones, the undertones, the warmth, the clarity. So I don't even think you're listening to real music at that point. And then add into that AI music, which is, becoming very, very popular at the moment. It's just the music industry is utterly poisoned. That's how I see it now.
Yeah, but okay, so let's simplify this even more. When you say 440, I mean, I know that you record in 432 hertz. I have an idea of what you mean, but the average person doesn't. What do you mean? I've got a guitar, right? And I buy some Ernie Ball strings and I put them on and I tune to G, A, whatever. What is 440?
Well, 440 hertz, it was attributed to a guy called Heinrich Hertz, who came up with the idea that 440 vibrations or cycles a second. So when you're tuning a piano, you have to have a reference point. You have to go, right, what are we going to tune the A above middle C? It's always the A above middle C. So we take that note, and we take a tuning fork, which is tuned to 440 vibrations a second, which means it vibrates, a vibration, a pure sine wave will go until you get to 440 vibrations a second. And you tune the piano, the A above middle C to 440 vibrations a second. And then you tune everything else around that. So that starting point is essential. Why they picked that starting point, the 440 hertz, well, we could get into that. But if you start hearing names like Rockefeller and Go Bells chose this particular frequency, then, if those guys made me a cup of tea, I wouldn't drink it. So why would I listen to their 440 hertz, So it's that starting point. And there was a guy by the name of John Deegan who started, he was, in bed with the Rockefellers and Go Bells. So they picked this tuning standard and he ended up having this massive musical instrument factory, which was possible by a Rockefeller grant, right? So, and he's making all of these instruments, these very fine instruments, all in 440 hertz, which could not be retuned. So they were like marimba phones and xylophones and chimes and all these sort of things. And so they're impossible to retune unless you start shaving metal off of them or adding metal. So now all of these fine instruments are being sold all over America. And if you wanted to play with one of these fine instruments, you had to tune to 440 as well. So all the orchestras were now getting into 4. So it's kind of a spread of a standard. Also, his chimes were going into big cathedrals, all tuned to 440 hertz. And he built 440 of those systems, which is, they love their numbers, don't they? And then he started building public address systems and speakers and just blasting these 440 chimes all over rural areas and communities. And then he got his chimes onto radio with the NBC chimes, supplying all the NBC chimes and getting his 440 onto radio and then eventually onto television. So you could start to see this nefarious spread of this tuning standard, which is 440 vibrations a second. And I don't think it's contributing to human wellness, personally.
Yeah, I mean, this change happened, I think, around 1935. Where they standardized 440.
Yeah, they had a couple of stabs at it. 39, I think they'd had a conference in London at 39, and eventually it became a worldwide standard in 55. So we've had this for a while now.
With just coincidentally the backing of the Rockefellers.
Yeah, coincidentally, yeah, and the NBC as well. That's owned by Rockefeller, and some of these churches and cathedrals where Deegan's chime installations were put are all Rockefeller. So I don't know about you, but when I hear the name Rockefeller, I don't think of little puppy dogs and rainbows. So, these are the guys that are bringing you 440 hertz. Just saying.
So the underlying argument here is that the adjustment to 440, which is kind of unnatural, like there's something off, but you can't pin it, and it makes you a little bit uncomfortable and anxious and whatever, would have been a deliberate shift to keep society under their thumb.
I think so. I just think that slight adjustment can put everything out. I mean, if you were to look at the actual raw frequencies of a keyboard tuned to 432 hertz, you get a lot of whole number ratios. You're starting to look at Pythagorean tuning, where he was using mathematical ratios to get, whole number ratios across the piano. But when you tune to 440, everything becomes fractured. And then you start to look at that cymatically. Well, that's probably the reason why the cymatic image in 440 is looking really cloudy and agitated. Yet, when you're using whole number ratios and 432 Pythagorean tuning, then you start to get more clarity and geometrically brilliant, like snowflakes. And if that's an indication as to what's going on a cellular level from a health perspective, well, I would like my water to, if I'm 70% water, I would like that to be very structured rather than this aggressive muddiness. So I think there's a reason why they sort of just took us slightly out of tune of nature. And I do believe that 432 is a natural frequency, because there was a guy by the name of Ananda Bosman, I can't remember. But he's a 432 advocate and made a bunch of movies on it. And he stated that the majority of musical instruments that are dug up from archaeological sites in Egypt and in Greece are predominantly tuned to 432. And I think, and if that's true, how the hell were the Egyptians and the Greeks tuning to 432 hertz? They didn't have digital tuners or anything. But what was happening is when talented people, I'm not just talking about everybody, I'm talking about people with a natural gift, when they open their mouth and they sing in 432 hertz. And I proved that in my presentation, because there's one guy by the name of Jacob Collier, who, I don't know if you're aware of Jacob Collier and his work. He's a musician, young lad. Yeah, he's probably one of the musicians that I actually have an awful lot of respect for. He has got perfect pitch. He's an incredibly talented composer, pianist, guitar player, does a lot of concerts where he does a lot of audience participation. And when he sings, he said in an interview, he said, when I sing, my natural state is about 30 cents below the tuning standard, which is 432. And he said it's a bit of a problem because, if I get the audience singing and I go, and they all sing, and then he plays his guitar and his guitar's a little bit sharp. So he has to sort of, and he sees this as a problem, and he says, my mum has got perfect pitch as well. Oh, by the way, perfect pitch means like I could just play a chord and he'd know what it is instantly without any reference, or I could play a note and he'd go, that's a B flat, or that's a C minor 7. It's just like that ability to have perfect pitch is amazing. But when he sings, naturally, he's singing flat of the standard. And it's like, oh, it's a bit of a problem. He said, my mum has the same problem. She's got perfect pitch. And he said, I know so many other people with perfect pitch that have the same problem. They sing about 30 cents below 440, which is exactly 432. So he doesn't realise that he's a fan of 432 hertz. He just doesn't know it. And there was another guy that discovered the Gregorian chants, and these Orthodox clerics as well. They sing all these chants, and they don't have a tuning reference. They just sing, and they're singing naturally in 432 when you test it with a tuner. Same is true with didgeridoos and all these sort of things. So I think people with a natural ability, when they open, I do it myself. Well, I'll get up in the morning and I'll sing with no reference point, and I'll sing something, and I'll get on my guitar and I'll go bang. I'm bang on 432. So I seem to be a natural 432 singer, and a lot of opera singers say they sing better in 432. It's more, it's much more natural, and that 440 just takes them out of that, and it's more, it's harder work to reach those notes. I know it's only 8 hertz, and it's such a little difference when you listen to it from an audio perspective. It's very difficult to tell the difference, but it's just out of natural for most people, it seems.
Yeah, it's like if you sing a harmony voice and it's just slightly flat, it'll throw you off.
Yeah. So
I think there was an Italian composer, the Italian composer Giuseppe Verdi, I think. He also argued that 432 hertz is more natural and better for the voices of singers.
Yeah. A few composers have said that. Yeah, it's known as Verdi tuning in a lot of circles, and there's even modern day composers that prefer this standard. There's one guy by the name of what's his name? Yanakiev. I've got him somewhere here. But let me just find him. What's his name? Ivan Yanakiev. He's a modern day composer. He's a Bulgarian conductor and musicologist. Deeply passionate about 432 hertz, believing it produces a warmer, more harmonious and spiritually uplifting sound compared to 440 hertz. And his famous quote, after hearing 432 hertz, I think he heard a cello playing 432. He said, it was like I heard God speak, describing it as pure light and love. He's still around today. He's conducted a load of different studies on brain activity when listening to 440 versus 432. So it's not just Verdi and other composers. There's modern day composers that have looked into this and gone, this is what we should be tuning to.
And then you also have what's called the Schumann resonance.
The Schumann resonance, yeah.
Or Schumann resonance.
7.83 hertz. I mean, I didn't really look too much into that. But, I mean, who's measuring that? I wonder if it's actually 8 hertz, exactly 8 hertz.
Well, it's 8. Apparently it aligns with the electromagnetic heartbeat of Earth.
Because who's measuring that? And I'll question that, because if it's 8 hertz, if it's exactly 8 hertz, then that would fit more mathematically with 432 and the golden ratio and all of these sort of whole number ratios that we find with the Fibonacci sequence. And 432 does seem to have a numerological connection with the golden ratio as well. So it basically uses more whole numbers, which I think you get more of a pure and natural sound when using whole numbers.
Sorry, just off topic, but I said Schumann and you said Schumann. So here in South Africa, because we speak predominantly Afrikaans also, so that SCH sound for us becomes an SCU sound, not a shoe sound. I thought that was interesting.
Well, yeah, it might be Schumann.
I mean, does this actually matter though?
Yeah, I think it does, because I learned about these solfeggio healing frequencies from a guy by the name of Jamie Buturf. He was putting out these solfeggio healing frequencies. He said, these are the frequencies that heal. They're the old true solfeggios based on the Gregorian chants. There's this new set of solfeggio healing frequencies that you get when you type into Google. It gives you, these are the solfeggio. There's not. There's 2 sets. The old-fashioned, the ancient ones is what I'm using. They're true solfeggio healing frequencies, which is why I call my 3 albums True Solfeggio. What I did is I took these frequencies, put them in there, and built tracks and instrumental sort of very soothing, very relaxed, kind of Pink Floyd-esque instrumentals around these healing frequencies. And I started selling these albums. And I didn't ask for any feedback, but I got it. And I have a whole list of reviews and testimonies from people who have listened to these albums and have had, profound healing effects and profound spiritual effects. And I've got many, many of these testimonials. So The reason why I think it matters is because if everybody was doing music like that could really, encourage health and well-being, we'd be looking at a completely different landscape in terms of health. So I think if all music was tuned to 432 hertz, if all music wasn't compressed and bastardized by compression, and I think we'd be looking at a very different landscape in terms of health. So that's why I think it matters.
I actually read a study recently that said that music that is tuned to 432 hertz is also just simply easier on the human ear.
I've got many studies. For instance, Jamie Buturf, the guy I learnt from, has his own studies as well. But I don't know if you've ever heard of Royal Raymond Rife, have you, who invented the Rife machine? You can look him up on Wikipedia. He invented the Rife machine, and he was basically obliterating cancer cells with certain frequencies. And I have his list of frequencies which could cure any ailment. So if you've got toothache, look down the list for toothache, and there's a frequency for it. Insomnia, frequency for it. Diarrhea, there's a frequency for that. So he seems to have found every frequency, every healing frequency for every human ailment. And his great nephew contacted me and he said, I've got all my great uncle's blueprints and journals and everything, and I'm continuing his work. And I've done a bunch of studies on the healing effects of 432 hertz. And he gave me the studies, which are on my website. You can find on conspiracymusicguru.com and click on 432 hertz and you'll see the studies there. But so one of them, and I'll just summarize the 4 or 5 studies that he's given me here. One was the effects of music at 432 hertz and 440 hertz on dental anxiety. And the bottom line is, music helps reduce dental anxiety, and 432 hertz music provides greater physiological relaxation by lowering stress hormone cortisol levels. That was the bottom line on that particular. On that particular study. Another one is the effects of music on a specific frequency, 432 hertz, on the sleep architecture of EEG pattern in individuals with delayed sleep latency. The bottom line there is 432 hertz music promotes relaxation by enhancing alpha brain activity, which may improve sleep quality. That's another bottom line there. Another study was the influence of music on the perception of anxiety during endodontic treatment, so teeth. Listening to music during endodontic treatment significantly improves vital signs and reduces anxiety, enhancing the overall patient experience. Another study, listening to music tuned to 440 versus 432 to reduce anxiety and stress in emergency nurses during the COVID pandemic. And the bottom line on this study was listening to the music, particularly tuned to 432, significantly reduced anxiety and improved vital signs in emergency nurses during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the last one is music tuned to 432 versus 440 for improving sleep in patients with spinal cord injuries. And the bottom line there was the conclusion was listening to music tuned to 432 significantly improves sleep quality in patients with spinal cord injuries compared to 440 music. So people going, where are the studies? I want to see the studies. I have plenty of them, and they do exist.
So realistically, if I buy a set of strings for my guitar and I put them on, how do I adjust to 432 hertz?
Right, you want one of these, which I shall show you. All right, if we just this is basically a guitar tuner. You clip it onto the end of the guitar, and some of these allow you to change the tuning frequency. So at the bottom there, you see it says, you can't see it. It's not, but there's a little number at the bottom there where I can change the
frequency.
Yeah, I wish it would focus. Yeah, so I set it to 432. It goes from 430 to 44 something. But so I set it in 432, boss like that, and then put it on the guitar, and then tune the guitar to this tuner, and that's how you get your guitars in 432. If you wanted to do a piano, that's a little bit more of a pain in the ass because you have to open the lid and start getting all the Allen keys and spanners and everything. It's a huge job to do it on a piano. For a digital instrument like your MIDI keyboard that I've got in front of me here, I can just tune that down 8 hertz digitally. So if I want a string section in 432 hertz, no problem, I can do it all digitally. So it's not that difficult to tune.
Right. So if I just bring my guitar over and it's currently tuned, standard tuning in 440, and I say, let's jam a song, we're going to be out. We're not going to...
it's going to sound horrible. Yeah, you will sound sharp, or I will sound flat.
That little bit makes such a big difference.
It really does. In fact, I had a gathering at my villa last year and we had some musicians and one guy turned up with his piano, his electric piano, and he wanted to play with us, but he had no idea how to tune his piano to 432. We started playing together and it was just so off. I said, we can't do it. There's no way.
So that song that we played a moment ago of yours about the moon landing, was that 432 tuning?
Everything I've released is in 432, all my albums. I've done 6 albums so far. I'm about to release a 7th next month, all in 432, yeah.
Sure. It's actually incredible how subtle this is. So, okay, so let's go back then a little bit. So bands like the Beatles and all the big music, Queen, Led Zeppelin, it's all 440 tuning.
Everything. It's a tuning standard. Everything you hear on the radio, every commercial you hear, every jingle, everything, basically, everything is all tuned to 440. It's a standard. So you can't deviate from that standard. If you've got I can, because I'm not, I don't have a contract with a record label or anything, so I can do what I want musically in terms of genres in whatever frequency I want to do. But if you're a band like Queen or Beatles or Jimi Hendrix or even Bob Marley or whatever, you have to tune to 440. You can't, you can't dictate your own tuning standard. It has to be 440 if it's coming out of that industry. So no, a lot of people say, oh, Pink Floyd, they tuned to 432. Well, I found no evidence of that. They're all tuned to 440. Some people say, oh, Jimi Hendrix used to tune down to 432. No, he didn't. He tuned down a half step. He wasn't playing in E. You tune a guitar to E mostly, but he tuned down to E flat, D sharp, but that's still in 440. You're just playing a semitone lower. So I found no evidence of Jimi Hendrix tuning to 432. I did find a couple of Bob Marley songs which were tuned to 432, but again, you don't know how they were uploaded to YouTube. So there could be. But no, I think all of these mainstream artists, I think you'd struggle to find a mainstream artist. I mean, even Prince, he said he knew about 432 hertz. Somebody asked a question on his website. He was answering questions, and 4,000 people asked Prince a question, and he chose this one question to answer. And the question was, oh, greetings, Prince, please tell us the importance of tuning to 432 hertz. And he chose this one question to answer, in which he replied, the gold standard. So he knew about 432 hertz tuning, but when you listen to Prince's music, it's all tuned to 440. So although he knew the benefits of that tuning frequency, he wasn't allowed to record his music in 432. It has to be 440. It has to be for them.
And I'm wondering about Michael Jackson. I mean, he was very awake.
Yeah. Yeah, and Michael Jackson, all music, all that's in 440. So although he might have been aware of these things and probably started to get a little bit vocal, as Prince did, he started talking about chemtrails recently. In the last 10 years, maybe. He went on a popular talk show and started talking about that, and, no more Prince anymore. Michael Jackson starts to, talk against his record label and tells you that all history is a lie, and no more Michael Jackson. Same with George Michael, started being a bit outspoken about the record industry, and no more George, so... There's a recurring theme here. So they started to wake up and they started to realise what they were a part of. Prince put on his face slave, if you remember that, realised what exactly he was used for. So
it's actually sad to see how enslaved those musicians are, because they're so high up in the system that they can't actually say what they're thinking. So they've got to be very subtle in their music. I know Michael Jackson tried very hard in his lyrics. We all had him wrong, didn't we? Everybody had him wrong.
I think he's still alive.
Well, he would be very old today, wouldn't he? Like 70.
No, when did he die? I think he might be sick. He might be in his 60s now if he was alive. I think that I found some very. I don't know. I think he's still alive. I think he's just. Wait.
I've never heard anybody say that. Okay, wait. Just go into that a little bit.
Oh God, you'll have to watch a documentary. I think it's called Leaving Neverland. Was it Leaving? No, not that one. It was done by a buddy of mine. But anyway, there's a bit of video footage of the ambulance arriving to pick up his dead body. Somebody took the number plate of that ambulance, and then there was a bit of footage later on where the same ambulance is at the morgue or whatever, delivering his body, and it's from a distant camera, and they zoom in. The number plate's the same. And the back door opens, Michael Jackson gets out and walks into the building.
What?
if you can find that footage, I'll see if I can find it. I'll send it to you. The same number plate,
yeah. Please do.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I mean, it makes sense. The guy was under serious attack.
Yeah, and then the same with Bowie. Did you see when David Bowie died? They had I think it was on a news program, and they interviewed David Bowie's A&R manager, and his name was Jack Stevens. Look this up. This will blow your mind. So they're interviewing this guy called Jack Stevens. So when we're going to talk about Bowie's death now, we've got David Bowie's A&R manager, Jack Stevens. Welcome to the studio, Jack Stevens. And the camera goes on, and you're like, that's David Bowie. It's David Bowie. He speaks the same. He's just put on a little bit of weight. So I think we've got another actor here. And I think they like to rub it in our faces, this kind of stuff. It's like, a revelation of the method. But look up Jack Stevens, Bowie A&R manager on this news program. And he's talking about Bowie so fondly. And it's him. I swear it's him.
I mean... It's not unlikely.
While I think about it, Michael Jackson as well. Have you looked into Dave Dave?
I've heard of Dave Dave.
Dave Dave sounds very much like he's this Burns victim, right? And we know how Michael Jackson loved to dress up in different, different, have cosmetic, not surgery, but real thick makeup to make him look like someone completely different. And this Dave Dave is supposed to be the best friend of Michael Jackson and a Burns victim. And when Dave Dave opens his mouth, it's like, yeah, I used to know Michael Jackson. He was it's like exactly the same voice. It's like, are they fucking with you here or what?
It's plausible. That's the crazy thing. It's plausible. It has to
be on the table at this point.
I wonder if this is actually a lot more common than we realize.
I mean,
a way for big name musicians to just get out of the matrix.
Yeah, that's what I think's going on. I think Prince got to a point where he was getting a bit of a big mouth, and maybe he's sitting on some island that we don't even know exists, in the outer lands, sipping cocktails with Kurt Cobain and Marilyn Monroe and Elvis. I'd like to think that.
Kurt Cobain was a phenomenal musician. I wonder if he knew anything about 432 and 440. I mean, he didn't know much about guitars, actually.
I don't really rate him as a musician. I don't really rate any of them, really. Because I don't think even the Beatles. A lot of people say Beatles.
They didn't write. They didn't write or record any of their own stuff.
So how can we know that Kurt Cobain wrote any of that stuff with Nirvana? How do we know they're not ghostwriters and put in all this stuff? Because all of these sort of so-called anti-establishment bands that came out of the '60s, and the Laurel Canyon stuff, and all this CIA stuff that was coming out of there. So, I mean, you can't tell me that's not going on in the modern day with bands like Nirvana, and so I question whether they really did write their stuff. So then I don't think that there's such thing as a really talented musician anymore. Like I say, Jacob Collier, brilliant. Prince, also multi-instrumentalist as well. I've got a bit of admiration for people that can write their own stuff, compose their own stuff, and play across multiple instruments. It's just rare you see that these days.
But now let me throw a counter argument at you, and it's very obvious. But Alex, this song was beautiful and it just relaxed me so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can get emotion. And I would say, well, take that same song. If it really moved you, how were you listening to it? Were you listening to an MP3? If you were listening to an MP3, imagine what it would sound like uncompressed in a full WAV file or on vinyl. Now imagine if you got access to the original recording and it was recorded in 432 hertz. I think you'd be talking, it would be moving you more. I think so. Imagine the possibilities if it was uncompressed. Imagine the possibilities if it was recorded. That same song you're talking about. What would it do to you, spiritually, emotionally, if it was recorded in the right way, in the right frequency? Probably you'd get more of a reaction, I think.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So in other words, if you really enjoyed that song, you might enjoy it even more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think that the 440 is just, if you love that song, it's just an indication of how much you could love that song, The demographic that listens to music the most, which is teenagers, and they've always got their headsets on, probably wireless these days, and they've got all these frequencies buzzing around. Like for those people that don't know, the wireless earbuds, they communicate between earbuds, so they're sending signals right through your head, right through your brain. So that's one issue. and they're listening to their favourite, Slipknot, this, they listen to that in 440, and then we wonder why teenagers are such a problem. We wonder why they're so aggressive and moody and unresponsive. They're just like they're just like monkeys, dragging their knuckles. So I think if you're listening to rock music in 440 hertz all day long, it's going to absolutely have an effect on your personality.
Which then makes me wonder how on point, some of those like African musicians are. Not the recording. I mean, if you go into like a village for a weekend.
Yeah, which is why the instruments that are dug up on archaeological sites, they're all tuned to predominantly to 432. And the Tibetans as well, with their Tibetan singing bowls. I have some videos of babies crying, just screaming, and then a hand comes into shot with a Tibetan singing bowl, and they just tap it lightly, and the baby goes, and then just stops crying, and it's amazing. So the ancient Tibetans, they didn't have digital tuners like I just showed you. They obviously knew something that they could feel the resonance, and they were tuning to this frequency naturally.
What's the solution here? Because this sounds like this is a musician talking to musicians.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that if musicians come to this information, they will want to tune to 432. Once they realise that their music will have more of an effect if they chose this tuning, then they would absolutely do it. And as I showed you, it's very, very easy to do. Not so easy with an actual piano, but with digital instruments and guitars, very easy to tune to 432. And if any listeners, like non-musical people, want to do something about their music that's tuned to 440 hertz, you can retune it. There are apps available from the App Store which will play all of your music that's stored on your phone in 432. You just click a button and it reduces it by 8 hertz. So there's things you could do to, you could use different software. You could ask AI or ask Google, how can I reduce my music by 8 hertz or get it into 432. So you can, do some conversions with your playlist if you wanted to.
Well, let me tell you something about the space station. It's only really there in your imagination. That thing ain't real. It's science fiction. It's there to feed your space addiction. Those astronauts are not in space. It's written all over their stupid face. See, I can spot a lie from 100 miles, and I can spot a fraud from the way they smile. Didn't you learn nothing from the fake moon mission? That puppet show from President Nixon. Well, listen up, they're doing it again, it seems. Check out the harnesses and green screens. I used to work a lot in film and TV. I know a bit about the television trickery to create the illusion that you're somewhere that you're not. A green screen is what you're gonna use a lot. Or if you wear a harness and attach it to the ceiling, the illusion that you're floating is what they'll be believing. All you're watching is a puppet show. Yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the human race. So let me tell you something about a zero-G plane. This thing flies up and then down again. Some weird stuff happens if you're on the inside. You start to float as the plane takes a dive. Simply add an actor that's trained to deceive, and you got yourself an astronaut, or so you believe. Plane flies up and that's everyone's cue. Then action, we got some deceiving to do. Plane flies down and then everyone knows to start the ISS live show. Floating in a plane with zero-G, but you only see astronauts on your TV. All you're watching is a puppet show. Yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the human race. Well, another thing I noticed when I looked at these fools, they're filming spacewalks in buoyancy pools. NASA's gonna tell you that it's just for training to practice for space station maintaining. Well, I thought about that, but if that's the case, then why the hell can I see bubbles in space? Take a hard look at the next spacewalk and tell me if you can see bubbles at all. Open your eyes, man, I'll bet you a quarter. Those spacewalks are filmed underwater. I can see space bubbles everywhere. Hey, NASA, how the hell did those get there? All you're watching is a puppet show. Yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the human race. So when you see an astronaut aboard the ISS, take another look at your TV set. They're pretty good at faking, so you gotta look close. Pay some attention to the way the actor floats. If you ask me, that ain't zero gravity, but Hollywood effects that I see on my TV. Take a good look at the whole damn thing. These lying bastards are just puppets on a string. It's all a big science fiction puppet show. The game's up, nassholes, cause we all know. Thanks for the show, NASA. It's been a blast. Now take your fake station and shove it up your... All you're watching is a puppet show. Yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the whole human race. All you're watching is a puppet show. Yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're just actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the whole human race, man. All you're watching is a puppet show. Yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the whole human race. All you're watching is a puppet show. Yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're just actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma.
You said
Zero
earlier,
budget.
yeah. So you said earlier that these videos are a lot of work, and zero budget, I suspect, makes it a lot of work. I mean, how do you do it? Just with a green screen?
Yeah, behind you can see the neon sign there behind me. Just above that, there's a green screen rolled up, and I can just pull that down, and then it's sort of over to my imagination, like what kind of scene. Because once you have a green screen and you film yourself in front of a green screen, you put it into software, it removes the green, and you can put whatever image or whatever video you want behind you. And as you saw there, I'm lying on a green bench. And of course, the software takes all the green out, so it looks like I'm floating. And I actually turn myself upside down, so all my hair's now pointed to the floor. And then I just reverse the video, and it looks like my hair's pointing up. So there's all sorts of little, techniques that I use, and just to show how easy it is with a green screen and zero budget and an imagination. And I wish I had NASA's budget of $80 million a day. I could do so much more.
And you do all the instruments yourself?
Yeah.
I don't see a drum set behind you. Is that MIDI?
Yeah, all the drums are MIDI. I did have a drum kit, but it just took up too much room. And to record drums as well, you have to mic up the tom, the kick drum, the snare, everything, and it's a real pain in the ass. So I just thought it's a lot easier to do digital drums. So I sequence all the drums, and I do play a little bit, but it's a lot easier just to let the machine do the work these days.
And do you play live?
Yeah, I played live last year. I used to play live a lot, mostly on my own, some backing tracks. I did work with some bands, but I found it very difficult working with other musicians. So I always thought I was destined to be just this solo artist. Until very recently, the last couple of years, I bumped into a couple of awake and aware musicians, and that really helps. Trying to find someone on this level that wants to do this kind of music in this kind of tuning and make this kind of music where there's no purse at the end of it, so because this is the worst business decision I ever made in my life. I can't make money out of conspiracy music because I'm so censored. So recently I've had a couple of musicians I bumped into, and we're working now. We've got a band now, we're working on our sound, and we're doing this kind of MTV unplugged sort of sound with acoustic instruments and with very defiant lyrics. and a few cover versions in there as well. And we've got our first live gig this September in Spain, in Alicante, right on the beach. So tickets for that are available on my website, conspiracymusicguru.com. Click on events and you can come and see us live, as well as hang out with your kind.
I think your name, Conspiracy Music Guru, is very smart because you're owning it. You're not pretending, which is also very good. I mean, that's pretty authentic.
It's a bit of a mouthful for people to remember, because when you say conspiracy music, they go, well, hold on, let me write that down. It's like, I wish if I'd have had my time again, I would have probably, made it a little smaller, but it does kind of encapsulate what I do. I mean, the word guru simply means to sort of bring darkness bring light into the darkness, and to inform and to teach and to guide. And I do believe that I am informing and teaching and guiding people with the music, and it's all about conspiracy. So Conspiracy Music Guru is kind of quite apt, really, and it's just a moniker that I'm stuck with now, so...
Well, I mean, people like you have, I think, had a very positive impact on particularly during the COVID era, on a number of people. I mean, I think people were searching for what the hell is going on, because nothing made sense in 2020. Just everything got turned on its head. And
there were no artists out there that were screaming about it, apart from me and a couple of others. Where was punk rock then? Where were all the rockers going? Rage Against the Machine. You had to be vaccinated to go to a Rage Against the Machine concert. The very irony in that. Where's the Rage Against the Machine there? Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I was screaming about it into a microphone, and I was singing songs like I Told You So, which was like, I told you so. It was like quite a rocky vibe to that. And I was singing songs about Big Pharma and vaccine injury and that, and, quite angrily doing it. And I made a rock album during that time of, frustration. I think everybody resonated with the frustration, because they were also going, why can't you see it? Why can't you see that clearly something nefarious is going on? So, for me, I don't need a therapist. I just need a microphone and a guitar.
Do you think there are any big conspiracies that perhaps aren't conspiracies?
Like what? I think it's all a conspiracy. All of it. Everything's on the table. I mean, these conspiracies have been going on for hundreds of years. If you can go back to the Titanic, there's a huge conspiracy there, right? So how long has this been going on for?
Well, let me change my question. So David Icke argues that we're all in a simulation. I'm not sure where I stand on that. What do you think?
I never thought I would lean towards simulation theory. I thought it was, particularly when people like Elon Musk are talking about it, I'm like, oh, shut up. But it's on the table for me. I don't know if you've seen the DMT experiments where people, they get a little bit high on DMT, and then they get basically a laser, which you can buy from any Home Depot store. It's like a level laser, and they shine it at the wall, and they smoke some DMT, and they look at the laser, and they can see like this matrix code in it. So, I mean, what's all that about,
Oh, well, it could be the drugs.
Could be the drugs, but but everyone's seeing the same thing. It's just curious. I don't know. Does that lend to simulation? I don't know. But we are transmitters and receivers of something. We're getting this consciousness, and it's coming from somewhere. So it's on the table for me. I'd like to see a little bit more evidence, but I wouldn't dismiss it.
Your music, Alex, also is very well produced. Do you mix everything yourself?
Yeah. That was quite a learning curve to do learn the production side of it, because normally musicians would just do the music stuff. They would just go in the studio and play, and then you have a sound engineer do all that hard work. But I've had to learn how to do mixing and mastering and EQing, and it's quite a task, really. But, I get it to a decent level where, it doesn't sound crap. You can hear all the instruments, and they're all separated well in the mix, and you can hear what I'm singing. The voice is clear. As long as the song's good enough and catchy enough. I don't obsess too much over, well, I probably do, actually. I try and get it to sound as good as possible. And I've got good ears, and that's a blessing and a curse, because if I hear something that's microscopically sharp or microscopically out of time or flat, I notice it, and I'm like, I'll have to fix that. So as long as I'm entirely happy at the end of it and I can't make it any better, that's when it leaves the studio.
Do you use Logic?
Yeah, I love Logic. I'm still only using it about 10% of its capabilities. It's vast software, but it allows me to do what I want to do. If you can't get a decent sound out of Logic, then you probably shouldn't be using it.
Or at least then just use GarageBand.
Yeah, all that's a good start. I started with GarageBand, and there's a lot of free software out there, free digital audio workstations that you can get online. And once you get the bug, you might want to step up and pay $300 for Logic. But the $300 is, I would have paid $5,000 for Logic. It's so worth it.
It really is phenomenal software. I played around with it also.
It's incredible. It's kept me busy. for years and years and years. I was quite successful with ringtones. I was making ringtones on Logic. That's how I first learned how to do productions, and I was selling ringtones on iTunes. That's what got me to Spain, actually. That's what bought my house. I did quite well at that. It's a different market now. AI has completely ruined that business. But so that was a lot of fun. That's what really got me into making music. And I thought, well, if I can make a ringtone for 30 seconds, I can do a whole song. And then there was just a snowball effect after that. I just really got the bug. And now I'm pretty good at it now, actually.
Your music sounds really, really good. I mean, you would think that there is a professional producer behind it.
Yeah, I'm just obsessive with it, really. You know, I think if you throw yourself into that, you know, because when you first open Logic, you're like, oh my God, there's all these buttons and knobs and parameters that I can twist. And it's like, this is quite daunting. I guess once you just dip your toe in the water and you start, oh, that's how you record. Oh, that's how I can make it sound better. Oh, just a little tweak here, and it's fascinating. You're becoming a bit of a sound engineer at that point and an alchemist, you know. That's what I'm doing with the frequencies. It's kind of like alchemy, really, putting these healing frequencies in this music and building tracks around it. And so it's like, you know, I'm a little mad wizard in my little sound room.
I love how you challenge bad ideas through entertainment. So God bless you for that. How can I follow your work?
Well, if people can remember 3 words, conspiracy music guru, those 3 words, if you type that into YouTube will probably be the best place to find me. There's 2 channels. Click on the one or subscribe to the one that has the most amount of subscribers, because that's where all the video content, all the visual stuff I've made. And it's quite powerful because, like you say, when you couple all of this dark stuff and all the stuff you learn and you add a little comedic layer to it, it travels a lot further. People want to share it because it's made them laugh, regardless of whether they are on board with the topic. They, you know, if you put a little joke in there somewhere, they're more than likely to share it. And people don't have the attention span these days to watch a 2-hour documentary on a particular subject. So putting a little truth grenade together in a song with a catchy chorus, you know, they're really good at you know, sowing seeds, and I see those seeds germinate all the time in my comments section. You know, I'm looking at this information because of this song or this chorus. So it's actually quite a powerful medium, which is why I'm being censored so much, because that's how much power it has.
Alex Michael, conspiracy music guru, thank you for joining me in the trenches.
Thanks for having me on, mate. I've enjoyed it. Cheers.